What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another Ranger Talk video. Today, I got a really cool one here. I'm chatting with Curtis Dewar of the legendary C Squared Music. What's going on, man? Thanks so much for joining me here.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. So, I guess first and foremost, could you tell me a little bit about C Squared Music and what the business is all about?
Sure. So basically, C Squared Music is a company that I co-founded with Corinne Westbrook back in 2021. I had been in PR for about 10 years at that point. I had my own company. It was called Dewar PR. I met Corey. We just hit it off, and we started the business together. A couple, like within 2 weeks of meeting each other, and we've had a partnership for the last 3 years in that business. And we hired Holly Royal 3 weeks after that, after we started. Hired another woman named Aaliyah at the time, and yeah, so basically what we do is we do PR and marketing for bands. We have a lot of independent bands, but we also work with like Raining Phoenix Music and Century Media. We've worked with Prosthetic Records, Artifact Records, a lot of bands and a lot of labels. But basically, the company's focus is getting media for metal bands.
Awesome. Wow, 3 years. And it feels like you've made quite a splash in just those 3 years. Just me being, a reaction channel. I've seen your company and I've seen labels and bands mention the company and things like that. Did you notice like a very quick kind of explosion in interest, or did you have to build that?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because, like I said, I've been doing PR for 10 years at that point. It was already like I was already established.
Okay.
But I mean, it's like when you bring on more people and you bring on fresh people and you bring on different viewpoints, things change. And yeah, obviously we expanded and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Was it quick? I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for what, like 12, 13 years. Is that quick? I don't know. I mean, but you know what I mean, right? It's like, but yes, is it a new company? Yes, but have I already been doing it for a long time ahead of that? Yes. Was it already established? Yes. I know I'm not giving you the answer you want to hear, but that's
No. No, fair enough. That makes sense to me. Yeah, absolutely. So before we dig any deeper into the company, I'm just very curious to know your personal experience. When did you first really kind of get into music and I guess metal in specifically, and how did that lead you into kind of the PR aspect of the music industry?
okay. So number one, I didn't start doing PR until I was 35. I'm 47 right now. And I just kind of fluked into it, to be honest. It was a complete and utter fluke. I was at home one night. I was reading a blog. It said we want writers. So I just filled out a thing saying, yeah, I'll write for you. It was like a little tiny blog, and I just started doing everything that they needed. I wrote. I think it was like, probably 8 reviews a week, sometimes more. I just met people, and then finally I ended up writing for a site where the guy who owned it did PR, and he asked me if I wanted to help out with it, and I said okay, sure, and he paid me, I think it was like $50 or something like that. And it just kept going kind of like that. So I mean,
Yeah.
it was not usual. It was not planned or anything like that. It was just kind of like a big, massive fluke in a way.
Mhm.
And then 2 years later, I was doing it full time.
Sweet. So you fell into it.
Fell into it basically. It was not a planned thing. I was not looking to get into PR. I have no background in PR. I had no formal experience in PR. I have no degree. I don't even have high school completed. I just kind of learned as I went, picked things up, and yeah, that's that's how it happened.
Cool, man. So have you like always been a metalhead or like really into music? Did you at least kind of bring that into, writing
Yeah,
reviews and stuff?
yeah. The very first album I bought that was metal as a kid, I think, was "To Hell with the Devil" by Stryper. It was on cassette.
It's a good
Um,
one.
yeah, and then I think I can't remember what the one was after that, but I do remember that there was a lot of that type of style. Because that was like probably 1987, I think, or something like that. So I'd been like 11 years old. And then I got into like thrash and stuff when I was 12, 13, and then just went into heavier stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've always been listening to heavy music for basically my whole life, ever since I was like probably 9 or 10 or 11 or something like that.
Yeah. Sweet. So it's
Yes.
kind of a natural fit. It's like, hey, can you write some reviews for some
Yeah.
music and metal? And you're like, oh, absolutely. I've been listening to this for a long time.
Yeah, I figured I'd
Easy.
take a shot. Well, to be honest, I I wasn't like totally untrained as a writer or anything like that. I'd written fiction and stuff like that, been published a bunch of
Oh,
times, 18, 17, just like short stories and stuff, nothing big. I'd
oh,
taken a course,
wow.
I'd taken like a correspondence course in journalism when I was 17 or 16. Like I said, I don't have a high school diploma, but I was taking, uh, a correspondence course in journalism. I think I did an English course, if I'm not mistaken, creative writing course rather. I mean, so yeah, I was planning on doing that, but then I just never bothered for whatever reason. It was like there was no money involved in it. I think it was like I was making like $25 per story or something like that, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
this isn't worth it because it was also you had to like send it out all snail mail. You'd spend like
Mhm.
$100 in stamps, and you're getting like $25 if you get accepted, right? So I was finally like, I'll just do this for fun. And yeah, that's just kind of how it went. And then I saw the thing about, if anybody wants to write reviews for us, so I just said, sure, I'll try it out. If they say yes, they say yes. If they say no, they say no. Yeah, and it's kind of went from there.
Cool, man. Dude, I love how nonchalant you are about you're like, oh yeah, I wrote some fiction. So I got
Well,
published like
it's fluke.
18,
It's fluke.
no, like
It's
eight,
fluke.
just a
It's
few
fluke.
times, like
It's fluke.
18 or 19,
Yeah, I mean, it's pure
whatever, man.
fluke. It's pure fluke. No, I'm not joking. It's pure fluke. Like all I did, like honestly, all I did is like the main thing that I ever do is I just ask people for things. That's it. Like a lot of people just think about what they want to do type of thing. And
Yeah,
then like if I see something, I'll go like, oh, I'll try it. And if they say no, they say no. If they say yes, they say yes. And if they say yes,
yeah,
cool, try it. And that's all it is.
that's awesome, dude. You got to be like the most nonchalant published writer I've ever spoken to or
That's
heard
like
about.
that's like really the only thing. I mean, it's like pure fluke. I just tried. I sent something in, and they're like, oh yeah, here we'll pay you $25.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll publish it. And you're like, okay, cool, whatever. No big
Yeah,
deal.
exactly.
Awesome. Oh man. So now that you're running like promotion and stuff for bands, is it strictly metal or are there bands outside of the metal genre that you also represent?
It's mainly metal, but there have been metal adjacent type things. So,
Hmm.
like we've done like some alternatives slash grunge type stuff. I also did PR for Lindsay Schoolcraft's Harp album, which got nominated for a Juno back in 2021, I think it was.
Wow.
But she's metal adjacent, so
Hmm.
that was probably why it was came kind of naturally to do that one. Um, yeah, but I mean, as long as it like if it's a mellow album or something that's from an established metal artist or from someone that mainly does metal, it's easier for me to catch the interest because my main people that I talk to are metal people.
Hmm.
But that being said, yes, we have done the odd thing that's not metal.
Cool. And I guess one of the biggest questions that I'm going to ask here that I think a lot of people would be interested in is how do you choose what bands to represent? Do you go out searching for them, or do you wait for bands to reach out to you specifically?
It depends. So if I hear something that I really, 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 really like, here's a good example. So Burial Path is a band who just randomly got recommended to me in the YouTube algorithm back in I think it was June or something like that. I saw the video and I just shared it, and then the guitarist just said thank you to me for sharing it, and then I told him I really liked the band. I wasn't even trying to get them for PR, and then we ended up getting them as a client. But that happened another time recently with a band called I'm not even sure how you pronounce their name to be honest. Iotis, I think is the right way to pronounce it. They're a black and metal band we work with, and now I'm forgetting how to pronounce your name properly. Same thing kind of happened. I just talked to them because I heard them on social media, and then they asked if we wanted to do the PR for them, but it wasn't like an intentional thing. So like sort of sometimes. Like if I really like a band, I mean, I'll get in touch with them, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily try to sell them if that makes sense.
Hmm.
But if a band comes to us, we need to make sure that we actually like them before we'll take them on.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question, but I also just want to mention, so you're not like just cold calling bands like out of nowhere, like, hey,
If I really liked them, I would probably do that. I would probably do that. I think I have done that once or twice, but I mean, they would. I mean, I would really, really have to like them because if I'm just desperate for money or something like that, I'm not just going to go hit up any band because because lots of people do that. But here's the thing: is like if we want to be able to have the relationship we have with journalists, we can't be sending out crap. I just can't do
Mhm.
that. Like I'm not going to get hired by any major label. I'm not going to get hired by anybody, or rather have people want to write about stuff if I'm sending out crap. Because you're going to get that rep that you're the guy that sends out crap and you don't quality check what you do. So you have to be able to, you know, you have to have some sort of ethics with the PR because the PRs that don't do that, they go out of business or they end up having to charge like really small amounts in order to get business coming in, right? So we don't do that.
Oh, I like that. It's like, yeah, you don't want to be that guy where it's like, oh yeah, he just digs through the dumpster of the music
Yeah,
industry and just churns out whatever he finds.
and there's lots of
Uh,
people that do that, and that I mean they got to make a living. I understand that, but at the same time, they don't get very good results. So that's the thing.
yeah, fair enough. And I really dig that. So you're saying that your company, C Squared Music, only represents bands that you personally believe in and enjoy and back.
Well, I have to admit, I have taken on bands I don't enjoy, but I believe that they would do well with journalists. Because, for example, I'm not the biggest prog fan, but I can tell when prog is going to hit for people. And if and I can listen to the music and go like, okay, this might not be for me, but I know that the journalists are going to love this, and I can rep that, and I know I like if I have to believe in it is basically the thing,
Right.
right?
Okay. So you don't have to just be able to go home and throw it on the speakers and just listen to it and enjoy it, but it's going to work. It's going to reach an audience.
Yeah, but if I heard a prog band that I knew had terrible mixing, the mastering was off, and the sound, it was just you could just tell it's not very well done. No, we're not going to take that. But like, let's say it was something like, here's a good example. I'm not a fan of the band Periphery at all. But if Periphery was given to us as a client, and we were working with a label, for example, and they were given to us as a client, I could easily work them because I know why people like them. Am I a fan of them? No.
Yeah.
But I also know lots of people who are, and I understand why people like them, so I would have no problem pitching that, and I know I could get behind it easily.
I dig that, man. I really appreciate that kind of balance between your personal taste, but just quality itself. Like just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not quality. And you being able to
Exactly.
distinguish between the two is really cool, so I dig it. Um, so is that something that you just learned over time? Because it doesn't feel like something that is just necessarily always going to be something that people just know. How did you get to that point to where you can tell what journalists or people, the masses, if you will enjoy, even if you don't?
Well, there's one. Well, when you have a business partner, it's a lot easier because both of you have to agree on it, number one. So we both have to, unless it's like something like, again, if it was something like Periphery, for example, they've been on a major label, they've done major tours. Even if neither one of us like them, I don't know how she feels about Periphery. I'm just giving them as an example.
Yeah.
I would have no problem accepting them without speaking to her, and she would have no problem accepting them without speaking to me because we both know that that would be something that would we could easily handle. But to answer your question, it would be more like if I have any doubts on something and it's not to my personal taste, I make sure that she listens to it. She does the same thing with me, and we don't take on any clients without both of us kind of going yes, unless it's something like I just gave you the example where it's like
Yeah.
established, we would know we could handle this. Even if we're not the biggest fans, could we still work it? If it was something that I totally hated, no, I'm not going to take it on.
No. Okay. So how many like bands do you typically have under your PR agency at a single time?
It varies. I think right now we have uh, 30, but it
Wow.
depends. Yeah, it totally depends.
That seems like a lot to handle. So, what all is involved? From just the business aspect of a promotion agency. Like when you sit down, when you sign or agree to represent a band,
Mhm.
what's kind of like the next steps? Like what all falls under the umbrella of what you cover for a band?
Well, the very first thing is that they get their press kit and bio written up by Corey. Corey's a professional journalist. We also have Holly, who's a professional journalist, but Corey takes over at that point. She gets them to fill out a bunch of forms, gets to know what the band is like, listens to their music thoroughly, and then they craft. Her, or Holly, or Olivia will craft, or Sophia will craft out the press kit. And then from that point, me or Corey decide which one of us is going to take on the campaign as the point person, as the person in charge. Like we both work campaigns, but there's one of us who is in charge of it, right?
Mm.
So it kind of depends from that point forward. So then you send out the holics, you do the first press release announcement, and then after that, it's basically just trying to find journalists who would be interested in the band and who you think would want to either speak to them, or post the news, or if it's a podcast, play a song, or do a review or something like that. You just kind of got to weed through and figure it out. And sometimes you always get a lot of no's. Most people don't even answer you 90% of the time. So yeah, lots of emailing, lots of DMing people, just saying, hey, you want to listen to this, or hey, have you checked this out, that type of thing. Yeah, it's just a lot of contact.
Yeah, how about I mean, this day and age, social media is massive. It's a huge aspect, and I've seen from many bands, many bands who complain about having to keep up with social media. It's like, they're musicians, they want to write the music, perform the music, not deal with the business aspect of social media. Do you all handle any social media aspects as well, or do you have your own channels for that?
We we don't include that as part of our standard PR campaign because otherwise it's going to cost a lot.
I bet.
Well, yeah, it's time consuming. So when we do add that on, we have to charge for it, obviously.
Hmm.
So it's very rare that we do that. We do try to get bands to do it themselves because they should be doing it themselves.
Hmm.
But if they want to spend the money for us to do it, we'll do it. But it's not something that I suggest just because I think everybody should be able to do it themselves. But yeah, for our own selves, we're pretty active on social media. We have Olivia handles our Instagram stories. I'll do posts to the feed of different announcements. And yeah, I'm personally active on Threads. I'm active on Instagram. I'm active on Twitter fairly in a fair amount. Not so much on Facebook or TikTok, but I'm always on something personally. Yeah.
So not to pry, but when you say that the band should be doing social media themselves,
Yeah.
why do you say that?
Well, because they should be like there should social media is social, and there should be someone there from the band who is repping them. You know what I mean? It's like there should be someone there actively talking to people, answering people's questions if need be, and kind of being that salesperson for the band themselves because no one's going to do social media for your band or company as well as you can. It's just a fact. And if you actually go out and you actually talk to people on Twitter or Threads or Instagram, people are going to check out your profile, they're going to listen to the music, and you get fans that way. So it's just the best way of doing it.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, I totally understand. It's that personal touch kind of like you said,
Yeah.
it's like if someone likes a band, they don't want to just hear from a robot just posting something. They like to hear from someone in the band themselves. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you this: like, would you rather hear from me, or would you rather hear from Olivia? If you needed the pitch done, like, and it was coming from me, would you rather Olivia deliver the pitch on my behalf to you, or would you rather hear from me direct?
Well, I don't even know who Olivia is, so
Exactly. There you go. There you
so
go.
I would
There you
prefer to
go.
hear from you.
There you go. I'm just saying, like, if you got a rep if you got a rep coming to pitch you, would you rather have the rep that you don't know, or would you rather have me?
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I dig it. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've kind of talked about like how you represent certain bands and how you kind of find them or they find you or whatnot.
Yeah.
But like you also mentioned though that you represent labels. How does that work? Like, because representing a whole label, I mean, that seems like there's a little bit more nuance there because you're choosing to represent a bunch of bands, but some bands maybe you don't believe in, but others you do. Or, I mean, it just seems like it's a bigger project.
Well, the way we do it, at least, I don't know how other PR companies do it, but it's per band. It's not necessarily like we get asked, we don't get told.
Oh,
So yeah, it's not like for example, if RPM has something, I get asked, I don't get told. They assume I'm going to say yes because I always say yes, obviously, but they're not gonna like, but they always say, we have this, can you do it? It's not, here's the thing for you. I'm not on, like, that's not how it goes. And it's the same thing with Century Media. It's been the same thing with, when we work with prosthetics, same thing with Artifact, that we're not doing a monthly retainer, if that makes sense. It's per
okay.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was on retainer, that might be a different story, but we haven't done that so far too, but just because it's easier to say no if something does come up, so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that was my misunderstanding. In my mind, I was thinking like, oh, you signed with RPM, you have like a year-long contract where you represent all of their stuff for a year,
I mean, theoretically, sure, but we haven't, like, I haven't gone there because it just doesn't, like, to me, I would rather, in a general sense, like, be asked to do something being versus being told. Because, like, let's say, for example, a label signed, I don't know, Burzum, and people are gonna freak out if we have to do for Burzum. That's gonna be a harm to my company. Do I mind Burzum musically? No, I like some of his albums and stuff like that. Do I want to rep him? No, because I think he's a fucking douchebag. But if I'm getting told that I have to do that as part of my job, that's going to be a problem for my company because I don't want to be the person to rep him. Same thing like if, for example, I'm going to say Tim Lambesis of As I Lay Dying. I really like As I Lay Dying, but I don't. I think Tim Lambesis would be a very difficult person to have to do PR for. Um, Napalm has their own in-house PR. That's their job. They have to do that. They don't have a choice whether they want to do it or not. I don't want to be in a position where it's like I can't say no to something if you get my drift.
yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, it's just you're just speaking the truth out here.
Well, it's true. Like, I mean, like, if I got asked to rep as a like dying, I mean, and I said yes, that would be one thing. But being told you have to rep as I lay dying is another thing. You know what I mean? So if it
Right.
was presented to me, hey, do you guys want to rep as I lay dying? You kind of weigh the pros and cons. I honestly don't know what I would say because again, I like the band. I think Tim Lambesis is a tool, but they're also a big band. So ask me at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the nice thing about being, like an independent PR company because you get to choose what you represent and what you don't. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's being asked versus being told. And being
Yeah.
told to do things, I know for myself, I have an issue with that for years now. Long-standing issue. I don't like being told to do something, even if it's something I like.
Yeah.
If I'm told to do something I like, I don't want to do it anymore.
I'm the exact
But if
same
I'm
way.
asked, then hey,
Yeah, I'm
maybe
the
I will,
exact,
maybe I won't.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the exact same way.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like with my reaction channel, like 95% of the songs that I choose, I choose on my own. Sometimes I get asked by bands and whatnot, but I could say no. It's not like I have anyone breathing down my neck. Hey, you're not getting your next paycheck
Yeah,
unless you react to this song.
exactly.
I have a different job for that. So this is a hobby.
Yep.
But I guess like this is your job though. But you're kind of like an independent. You have your own company, and I think that's really really cool that you get to do this and represent that. Have you discovered like any really cool bands that you really really love through doing your PR, or are you already pretty much familiar with the bands that you represent?
I'm not going to name anybody by names because otherwise it's going to look like doing favoritism. Yeah, all the time because I would say probably at least half of the bands that have approached us at some point I've never heard of.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so this is like all over the world, right? It's not like region specific. Anyone, any band all over the world can reach out to you if they're interested in your services.
Yeah, but they're not likely to get accepted if they have poor quality is the main thing.
poor quality
Okay, well, let's say that
mix
let's say
wise
it could be
or
anything.
what?
Like, well, let's say that their band photographs are awful. We've accidentally taken stuff where the music is great, and then you don't find out till later that the band photographs are fucking horrible or non-existent. It's a pain. I've actually had bands get refused coverage in major magazines because their pictures are shit. The music is awesome.
Really?
Yeah, because of the fact that
Wow.
they have low quality visuals, and then the band will be pissed off at me, and it's like, well, it's not my fucking fault. You don't have a good photograph. Like,
Yeah.
you know, don't use your fucking iPhone to take a picture. Don't do what I'm doing right now with this grainy piece of shit, and then put it out there and expect magazine coverage. It's just
You're not going to get accepted into the
you're
next
not.
edition of
Well, no,
some
like
metal magazine or anything because
I remember specifically, I think it was back in 2015 or 2014, Metal Hammer specifically wanted to do an interview with this one band. Would have been a great opportunity for them, but their visuals were so fucking poor, it was just a no.
wow.
Yeah, I
Well,
can't remember
that's
who it was,
that's
but
some
yeah.
really good insight there for bands out there. Like, music and all that stuff sounds great and whatnot. Take good pictures.
Well, and
Don't let
also have good.
don't let a bad picture ruin everything.
Well, there's also I've had the same thing with art. I've accepted bands where the music is great, and I find out later the album cover is just like dog shit, and that's a problem too. Because like, well, just you yourself as a reviewer, if you get something that looks like it was spray painted by a 1 year old, you're not very likely to click on it, right? You're just not.
Right.
You're
Yeah,
just
you're
not
not
because
wrong.
you look at the visual, you go, it's probably shit. And don't judge a book by its cover, they say, but everybody fucking does. So it's just like, somebody sees a piece of crap, visual cover for a song, they're not going to listen to the song, or a very low percentage of people will. So you got to have the visual aspects there for the art, and then you got to make sure it sounds good. There's a whole whack of different things you need to actually, do well. And it's not always just the music.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's multiple albums that I've listened to where when I see the cover, I'm like, good grief, this looks like Microsoft Paint or
Yeah.
something. It's just done it like, and I'm like, wow, what is that? And the music is great, but it kind of diminishes the experience. And to your point, whenever I do album reviews, I always make a point to focus on I take the beginning to kind of talk about the cover because back when, I just have fond memories of going into the CD shop. And a lot of times I would pick out albums based off of the name and the cover. If the cover looks sick, I was like, dude, I got to check this out,
Yeah.
But so if you're at the CD shop scrolling through and you see a cover that looks like garbage, you're not going to buy it.
Well,
You're
it's the
not.
same with the name because there was one band. I'm not going to name the name, but I remember when I did do on the retainer deal for labels. It was a small, tiny cassette label when I first started out, and the band name was so fucking stupid. It was just like it was beyond stupid, and I could not get
Wow.
anybody to listen to it. But the music was fucking fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, it was just so horrible. Like, and the band kept going, "Well, why isn't anybody picking this up?" And I was like, "Because your name is so fucking stupid. That's why, like, you have great music, but it's just like I can't get past the point of anybody wanting to listen to that just because of the name, right?" So,
Yeah. That's so funny because there's that it's like Finnish movie. It's like a comedy about like metals called like heavy
yeah,
heavy
I know.
something. I don't know if you've seen it, yeah, but like their band name and there's like impaled rectum or something. It's so
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah,
So it's something
yeah.
like that. It's like if I see a band called Impaled Rectum, I'm not gonna listen to that. I'm just not.
If you're into death metal, you might, but I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess is there's a type for that sort of thing, but so also speaking kind of from like a band perspective, like if there's a band watching this right now, they're like, oh, this sounds all really cool. I like the services that Curtis talked about and all this. My band could really use this. We got great photos, we got great music, although that's you know to be determined, I guess, because every band probably thinks they have great photos and great music, but but if they think all of that, how does a band like measure? Like, what are the metrics for a band to kind of measure? the services that you provide? Like, how do they see the kind of the results?
Oh, that's through media reports. So what we do is we send updates every 2 weeks approximately on what placements they've received. And that's basically what it is. And also built into the system that we use, it shows various different metrics like, page views, social media shares. There's a whole bunch of them that I'm just blanking on right now. But it shows
Yeah,
all that, plus it shows the total press, different types of press. So there's a spot for news items, there's a spot for interviews, spot for YouTube clips, there's another spot for reviews, and social media. So they can all see it right there. And most of the time, not most of the time, some of the times there's a problem where bands feel like the metrics should be higher than what they are, but it's funny because a lot of bands will think like if they pay for PR, they should be getting the same results as, for example, let's say Meshuggah or something like that when they're brand new. I'm not joking.
right.
I'm actually not joking, and they'll be like, well, I only got 70 placements, and it's like, well, 70 placements on a debut EP is fucking phenomenal. That you'd be more, like 20 would be the norm. And I've
Wow.
had bands complain to me like, we only got Decibel, Metal Injection, Metal Sucks, and Stereo Gum. And it's like you got fucking Metal Injection, Metal Sucks, Decibel, and Stereo Gum on your fucking debut.
That's a
You know,
lot
do you not realize that most major bands do not get all four of those on major labels?
through their whole career.
Yeah, I remember this one guy complained to us 4 years ago. It was like almost exactly like that. There was a whole bunch of these big things. He came back at me. He's like, "Oh yeah, there's only 40 placements," and he names off every major fucking metal magazine and how he's mad because he only got those. And I'm like, I remember I asked two clients in major bands on Metal Blade how they would have felt with those results, and they said you did better for them than you did for us. Yeah, and anyways,
But this guy's complaining.
he's complaining. Yeah, he's like, that was the worst money I've ever spent. I was like, okay, bro, whatever.
Don't
Have
let the
fun.
door hit you on the way out.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. You try to explain to someone nicely at first, and you're like, no, well, look, if you look here and like, wow, I wanted to get this. I wanted, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, buddy, but
Yeah, it's like a power metal band being like, dude, why is Iron Maiden still getting higher placement than we are?
I've had weirder things than that, trust me.
Weirder than that.
Well, maybe not weirder, but as weird as that, probably, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like I've had bands come to me and say, how many covers of print magazines can you get us if we pay you $500? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously. It's like, give me a break.
Well, since you mentioned like money, I don't know if you're willing to disclose here, or maybe you can even just give kind of a ballpark. What are kind of like the fees associated with this? Or are there tiers, or is there
Are you
kind of
talking
just
for, are
one
you talking,
package?
are you talking for us, or are you talking like for PR in general? Because we're a bit more expensive than a lot of other companies.
Well, then how about both? And how about the reason for the difference?
Well, for us, probably like $1,000 or high. You want to higher. You want to be budgeting at least.
And for how
Thousand.
long is that?
That's 1 month.
That's a month. Okay.
That's a month, and then it depends on what else you're going to be doing. The reason why it costs more is simply because we get results for you, and if you go and check the results that we get for independent bands versus what most other PRs do, you will see that
Mhm.
99% of the time, and I'm probably bragging here, but 99% of the time our results are much superior to what other PRs will get you. Because the thing is, a lot of PRs that work with big bands, they can't break small bands. They just can't because they've been working with big bands for too long. They're basically order takers now, and they can't get results. Or their results aren't as good because they're used to people coming to them instead of them having to go and break the band. So, like, Metallica's PR is probably, I don't know Metallica's PR, but I'm giving them as an example, probably would have a bit more of a difficult time. Well, maybe not them because they probably have the cash to break a smaller band.
Yeah. If Metallica even has PR, like, I mean, do they
They
even need
definitely
it at
have
this
a PR,
point?
they definitely have a PR, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, they probably have the cash they can buy in anywhere that they wanted to.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you recommend PR for like every band? Is it possible to succeed without PR in today's musical landscape?
Of course, the thing is it's going to be tougher for you because here's a good example. We'll take you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you probably get inundated with a bunch of pitches frequently from bands that you don't know, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so and you're not even in the top 10 of the metal uh, YouTubers, right?
Wow, harsh. So
Well,
we're
no,
just being honest. We're just
no,
being
no, but you know
honest
what I mean.
now
No, no,
here.
but I'm just saying. No, no, but I'm just
I
saying.
know, no, no, no. No, I know
You
what you're
know what
saying.
I'm saying. So you're
No,
not
I
in the top
know. I'm
10.
just messing with
But
you.
you're not like Nick Nocturnal. You're not a Nick
No,
Nocturnal.
no.
You're not like Tank Attack.
I'll be the first one to admit it. Like I'm
Yeah.
nobody. I'm just a
Yeah.
rando.
I'm not saying you're
So
nobody. I'm not saying you're nobody. I'm just saying you're not the Nick Nocturnal. You're
no,
not,
I'm not.
and you're not, what's his name, Tank Attack or whatever. I'm
Yeah,
sorry for,
the tech guy and all that. Yeah.
you're not the 500,000 subscriber type people that I'm.
No, no. Not
So,
yet. Not
yeah,
yet.
not yet, not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
Let's, okay, so for you, how many pitches do you get per week from unknown bands?
Per week,
Yeah, at a guess.
like three.
Okay, you're not as bad as I was gonna think.
No,
You only get
I'm not as bad probably as you thought,
I'm
but for
not
me,
because
three is a lot.
okay, how many do you get per month? There's no way you only get three per week. Fuck off.
I do. I
No
do.
way. No way.
Yeah, it
Okay,
used to be
okay,
more,
okay.
but it's not as much now because I know everybody now. Hey, that's how it
Okay,
is. Like I just know everybody now. So
in general, how many pitches do you get? Not just from unknown bands. How many pitches per week?
uh that's probably more like 10.
Okay, so you're getting 10 per week. Okay, so Tank the Tech has what 500,000 subscribers or something stupid like that, and so does Nick Nocturnal. I think he's got like a
Yeah.
million.
Well, they probably
Okay,
get
so
like 100 a week.
exactly. So like if you're Joe Blow YouTuber, not YouTuber, if you're Joe Blow band rather, and I'm pitching you, are you going to more likely answer the email from the band you've never heard of or from the publicist you know? So Liz from Earsplit messages you, and this other band messages you. Who are you more likely to open the email from? If it's the band, fine, but most people would pick Liz.
Well, are we talking about me or are we talking about
You,
Nick
you.
Nocturnal and
No, we're
Tank the
talking about you.
Tech?
We're talking about you right now. So like you.
I open all of them. So
But okay, well
because
that's
it's
fine. But
easy because it's easy to manage. But like
that's fair.
to your
Yeah,
point, if I was getting 100 a week,
yeah. You're gonna go with
I would definitely open the PR emails
yeah,
because I would probably start ignoring a lot of the unknowns because how
exactly,
on earth is a normal human being supposed to keep up with all that?
exactly. So if you're getting 10 per week, so Nick Nocturnal's probably getting like you said 100,000 a week.
Yeah.
He's gonna go with the PR versus
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
unknown band that's just slipping into his DMs.
And
Dude,
yeah,
there's no way
they'll never hear a
there's no way
response.
you only get 10. I don't believe you, by the way, because we
I
get,
do, dude. I
you're on
do.
our email list. There's no way. Like we
You
send out
give me
10
too much credit,
ourselves.
man.
We send out 10 per week ourselves, so I don't believe you for a second here.
Dude, I do. Well, I will say I do get spammed by C squared music, like
There you
at
go.
least 20 a week. So
There you go. So you got
that
20 a
takes
week
up all
from us.
my time.
There's 20 a week from us. There's another 10
Well, that's
from
from
somebody else.
you. That's not
Yeah,
just
just
bands, you know.
no,
But
but I'm just saying in general.
if we're
Yeah.
talking promotional emails in
Yeah,
general,
everything. Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
oh,
Everything. Yeah.
yeah, that's probably easily 40 to 50.
There you go. Okay, now we're talking the same language here. So
Okay, 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 okay.
you're gonna be more likely to look at something from a PR than you are from the rando band that just message you saying, "Check out my Big Dick Energy fucking song, whatever the hell some bands say dumb shit like that all the time. They do.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Well,
do.
I mean, it makes it easier because when I'm scrolling through all the PR stuff and I
Yeah.
see black metal discovery, melodic death metal heroes, all that, delete, delete. I don't even have to worry about it because I'm kind of
Exactly.
in that niche, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it makes it simpler for me. But like Nick Nocturnal, Tank the Tech, like they do metal
Yeah.
broad, so that they're
Yes.
having to open all of them. So
Yes.
that makes my life a little easier. Plus, as far as like unknown bands, occasionally I'll get one trickle in where they're like, "Oh, hey, we're this black metal band from wherever. We'd like to," and I'm like, "Did have you never looked at my channel before?" Like
That was the other
this,
thing I was about to say. That's probably also why you get a few lesser pitches than I was thinking because you're focused on power metal only and not the
yeah,
whole.
and symphonic, power and symphonic. But yeah, if I see black metal, death metal, all that
Yeah.
groove metal, sludge metal, which there's so many types of metal, I don't even know what they are. But yeah, when I see them pop up, I'm just like delete, 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 whatever. Or if it's the
Yeah,
band themselves, I'm like, oh, oh, that's not, I focus on this and that. Thanks for reaching out. Best of luck to you, whatever. But so yeah, that definitely helps me personally.
yeah,
But yeah, if I was on that vast, amount that some of these other YouTubers have, I would definitely prioritize the PR without a
yeah.
doubt. Because how do you keep up with the rest? You just can't. And at least, and to your point, when I see it come through from like a PR, like yourself or whatnot,
Yeah.
in my mind, and whether this is valid or not, there's like a certain, it's like, oh, this has been vetted already. Like in your mind, it's like, oh, this is coming from a PR agency. This is legit. This has been vetted already.
Or you
Whatever.
know, it's
It's not like,
already it doesn't vet, so you know right away. Think.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, no, I mean, to your point, it speaks volumes. Whether someone just randomly tries to attack things themselves and reach out to these YouTubers or journalists or Decibel, like you send Decibel an email
Yeah.
and it's just from the band. You think they're going to get a response? Probably not. But if you send them
No,
an email, it's possible. So
it's possible. Yeah.
it's possible. So
Keyword
yeah,
possible.
possible, not guaranteed, but more possible. No.
Yes, exactly.
Also, do you have like a preference as far as metal genre, music wise, for your personal taste? Out of curiosity.
Not so much anymore. I used to, but not so much anymore. I mean, just from doing PR for the last 12 years or so, I mean, it's just exposed me to so many. But like I said before, there are genres I typically don't really care for very much. Like I said, prog metal is not a genre I typically like. There are prog bands that I do like. There are prog albums I like, but as a genre, I wouldn't say I'm a fan. Slam metal, not the biggest fan, but they're the bands I like. Yep, 100%. Yeah, I wouldn't say I have too much of a preference anymore, but there are genres where I kind of go, as a general rule.
I've never even heard of slam metal, and I've seen all kinds of different metal styles, but I've not heard of that.
Fair.
What is it? What's it like?
It's like brutal death metal. I'll have to send
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
seen all kinds. There's so many subgenres now. I'm just like, dude, what is
yeah,
going on?
yeah.
But so you know, with this PR agency, like, has there been anything that you've learned kind of from the music industry as a whole, like since your journey, like when you think back to when you first started to where you are now? I'm sure you've gained a lot of knowledge and whatnot, and maybe even seen the inner workings of the music industry. Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you of like when you realized something or learned something, you were like, wow, didn't think that was how that was.
I think the main lesson is that lots of people are naive. I'm not going to lie about that.
Hmm.
There's lots of people that are naive. Bands will get hit up for some of the most absurd things I've ever heard of in my life and just fall for it. They'll be offered to pay for something that's just, in my mind, absolutely ridiculous, but they don't know any better. They might have heard of a certain music marketer, for example, who's going to sell them, I don't know, some sort of plan or something like that because they claim they work with all these big bands and then they get ripped off for 200 bucks, or they'll sign with some label, quote unquote label, that'll offer them a deal where they pay the label $2,000 for basically CDs and to give them 50% of their royalties. So they're basically paying for someone to take their music from them.
Ah,
Happens all the fucking time.
wow.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if you really call that a lesson or not, but that there's a lot of people that are naive. They don't bother to check for themselves the validity of different things. They don't talk to more than one person about things. For example, I've heard many PRs being called a scam, who aren't. They're actually hardworking people, and it was just because the band wasn't satisfied with the results they got. Reversely, I've also seen other people getting called really good people, who got super subpar results for someone, but they were thrilled, and yet they paid them $1,000 or something like that.
Jeez.
Um, Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, that's the thing is a lot of people are naive. They don't bother to check things for themselves, or they take someone else's word for it. And yeah, there's a lot of individuals that don't know as much as what they're claiming to know too, right? So I don't know if that's a lesson, but that is one thing that I've learned.
no, yeah, I mean it's important. It's like I guess it's like a general assumption that these things would take place, but like actually witnessing it firsthand,
Yeah,
that's kind of yeah, I mean,
yeah.
seeing it
Like
for yourself.
there's one individual who I know who has made claims that they've worked with extremely large bands, and sure, it's sort of true, but basically all they did was a Facebook post for them. But they make it sound like they were involved in like the management or something like that, or in the general direction. And people are all
Yeah.
always shocked when this individual doesn't know as much as what they claimed. Uh,
Wow.
that
Like they
happens all
had
the
a
time.
hand in like the band's actual success when it's like, dude, you
Yeah,
posted one.
you posted one thing to Facebook, or maybe you sat, or maybe you like just talked to them for 10 minutes about something, like that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, like yeah, there's so many people that are like that. I worked with X band and it's like literally they didn't do anything, you know what I mean? Or it was very minimal what they did.
Yeah. That's classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, overblowing the proportions of what you did, but
Well,
like you
yeah.
said, technically they're not lying in a sense when they
No.
say, "Oh, they worked with this band," but
Well,
it's
yeah, like
like,
here's a
in
good
what
example.
capacity?
Someone tried to say about me one time that I had worked with Exhorter, like on their reunion. And it was like, okay, that's technically true. All I did was send one press release. I said, don't put that. I said, don't fucking say I worked with them. Like, please don't. Like, literally sent one press release. That was the whole substance of it. And I don't want
Yeah,
fucking anybody going like I worked the Exhorter reunion. Is it technically true I did something on that? Sure. Did I actually really do anything other than basically write something and hit send? No, not in the slightest. So, and it's the same thing like with, for example, if we're working with a label, we don't claim the band as a client, if that makes sense. I mean, I put them on our client's playlist but we've never said, for example, like we did Voivod's campaign for Century Media last year. I would not say Voivod was a client. Century Media was a client. Does that make sense? But a
yep.
lot of people will go and say, would say something like, Voivod was my client, but that's not really true. Our client was Century Media in my mind, right? Maybe I'm splitting hairs, but yeah,
No, I mean, I disagree. I don't think you're splitting hairs whatsoever. I think that distinction's definitely important. Century Media asked you to represent Voivod for this release or what have you, not the other way around. Like Voivod didn't reach out to you. So yeah, no, I'm with you.
yeah,
And so basically what you're saying is that you are the X Order PR guy.
definitely,
Like you
definitely.
were completely responsible
Because
for that tour.
I did one press release back in
Dude,
2017 or whatever.
yeah. So if anyone wants to be the next X Order,
Just
CR
talk,
music, CR Square Music. So
just talk to me. Apparently, that guy was pure.
that's it, man. That's it. So you have your hand in it, the music industry, you do the PR, all this stuff. Have you ever thought about starting your own label?
Nope, and I wouldn't.
Why is that?
Because I don't want to get involved in that. I do PR, dude. I don't need to fucking put my hand into anything else. We do PR, we do marketing. That's what we're good at. There's no sense in trying to do anything else like that. There just isn't. We did a compilation back in when we first started in 2021.
Hmm.
Um, Pain in the ass. Don't want to do it ever again.
Wow. Well, so like, clients that you represented, you kind of put together a compilation,
Yeah,
a song from each band, whatever, and
yeah,
released it,
yeah. I didn't want
and it
to. I don't
just
want.
didn't go well.
Well, it wasn't that it didn't. It take too time consuming. I don't want to fucking do that. And then you have to make sure that like everybody agrees that they're gonna get paid like a penny or whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's a pain in the ass. Like if you want to run a label, cool. I mean, I'm good at PR. I'm good at marketing. I'm not. I have no plans on doing anything else.
No, I dig it. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, you like what you do, so why branch out beyond, your focus?
Well, if I'm gonna
Eh,
branch
eh,
out, it would be involved in something that we already in kind of in the same genre, quote unquote, as what we do. You know what I mean?
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like if you were to work at like say Nuclear Blast or something, you'd want to be like the marketing guy or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Or
Yeah.
if I was, or if we were going to add a service like building websites, I would rather learn how to do that. I
Oh,
don't know how to build websites, but that would be like a type of thing that would fit
a
under that.
natural evolution, exactly.
Yeah,
That would make sense under the
yeah,
umbrella of the marketing
yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah.
Cool, man. So, you know, if you were to give advice to any band, I guess give me your pitch. I mean, you've explained a lot. You've kind of said why, CR the squared music or C squared not CR. I don't know why I said CR squared. C squared music. You've kind of explained what sets you apart in a sense, but if there's a band watching here and they're curious and say they sent you an email, oh hey, we're curious about obtaining your services, convince us why should we sign with you? So what would you say?
I would turn that right back around and ask them why they would want to work with us because I don't like again they would have to tell us why we would be wanting to take them on because like honestly like if it's a brand new band they need us more than we need them. I don't and I'm not saying that to be egotistical but it's true
No, yeah,
because when someone tries to come to me and I'm trying my best not to sound like an egotistical asshole here but if when someone comes to me and says to me sell me on your PR services I don't have to because of the fact that, we already have clients, we get results with clients. They can see that. Like if anybody wants to go onto our website, they can see every single press release that we post, that we put out. You can see who we work with, you can see the results we've gotten. You can Google any of us. Me and Corey are very Googleable. Like they can talk to other clients and stuff like that and I don't feel like I need to convince anyone that they have to work with us like type of people that want to be convinced are usually the people that do the things like I was saying they're mad that they're not in Pitchfork and on the cover of Decibel on their first try and then they usually want a deal on top of that and then they usually want to get a refund later if they're not satisfied and they
right.
want to give you a hard time so what I would suggest if someone isn't convinced they're ready for PR, like first find out what it means. I mean, we have the heavy business podcast that I do. We have, I don't know,
Mhm.
something like 400, 500 episodes. You can go listen to stuff that me and Aaliyah, who used to be my co-host, me and Justin, me and Corey all talk about on different aspects of PR and marketing. We have a whole blog at csquared.info, which we go over different PR topics. And if after that you're not convinced that you would want to work with us, don't
Don't, yeah,
don't don't even bother because of the fact like if you can't see for yourself what we do and that it's going to be valuable nothing that I say is going to convince you otherwise right so and the only way I would do a big sales pitch is if there was like some band that I really fucking believe like Burial Path when I heard them I would have been willing to do that because I knew that band was special the first time I heard them
right.
I didn't have to do that, but I would have been willing to do that because I know as a fact that band, like to me, that band is a really good band, and I knew that they could do really well with the right help.
Yeah.
So with someone like them, I would have been totally willing to do a sales pitch too. But as a general rule, most bands that want that are generally going to be the ones that are most difficult to work with, in my experience.
That makes sense. Yeah. So unless Curtis is reaching out to you, convince him why he should represent you. Simple as
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's kind of yeah, and I was probably phrasing it a bit harshly. It's more like,
No.
like we want people that to work with that like the type of clients that we want to work with are ones that aren't hobbyists because the people who are hobbyists are generally very difficult to work with as well. Not all the time. There are people that just play in bands like on the weekend and stuff like that, and they just want to get a bit of publicity and they want to make some sales and they do okay for themselves.
Hmm.
But there also are bands that are like where there's like where the guys are like in their 40s and 50s and they think that they should be on the cover of Decibel by now and they just started their band and they have some disposable income. Sometimes those bands are good, but we want to
Yeah.
work with bands that are actually trying to do something. They want to go on tour, they want to actually make sales.
Yeah.
They're actually serious about their career. And they're not just like sitting at home eating pizza expecting to be on the cover of some your magazine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like professionals
No,
is what
that's a
we
good
want to work with.
distinction. Yeah,
Yeah,
professional. That's a good distinction. Folks
yeah,
like this is like literally their life. This is what they
yeah.
want to do as a career, as a, everything. It's like they're everything, not just like you said, on the weekends they go play a little bit and then
But sometimes those work, but not like, I think you know the difference I'm talking about.
yeah.
There's like
Oh,
people that
absolutely.
are never wanting to do anything more than to make it a hobby and have no interest in doing anything serious with it. And then there's the people who have it as a hobby because they need to have a day job because they got a family support, but they're trying to go somewhere at the same time, right? That's a different type thing.
There is a difference, and
Yeah,
it just even just from my experience of just listening to so much music and reacting to so much, a a lot of times you can hear the difference even
yeah,
in the music that itself. And again, sometimes the those folks who are just kind of doing it for whatever, it can sound good, but then when you put it up against someone who like this is really their passion and all that, the band's there's a difference, and you can just hear it.
yeah,
So yeah, I totally understand that distinction, and that's important. That makes sense.
yeah. But I mean, like, there are PRs that'll handle that. That's totally fine. But again, that's not the type of people that we want to work with, just because that's not what we like to deal with. We want to actually help people expand, not just, stay, where they're at type of thing, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, and that's cool because at least in my opinion, if I was a band or whatnot, everything that you've said and that distinction alone, even it gives it an added layer of like legitimacy to
Yeah.
your agency compared to maybe some others that are just be like, oh yeah, sure, we'll do this and that. They'll accept everybody. They'll just do whatever. It, there's a difference there. It's like what do you really want? I mean, you can be spending the money anyways. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not trying to put words in folks' mouth or trying to encourage them to like spend like money they don't have or anything. But if I was a band, it would be like, hey, if I'm gonna do this, I just want to do it right. So you would definitely try to compare all the agencies and yeah. So
And there's
that
no
speaks
guarantee.
volumes.
There's absolutely no guarantee with anyone, because the other thing too that people need to keep in mind about PR is that there's no magic wand. So
Mhm.
sometimes, like, we've taken on clients where we thoroughly believe that they were going to do well, thought we'd do a good job on them, and it just bombs, doesn't take off in any way, shape, or form. Nobody cares, nobody wants to listen,
Wow.
for whatever reason. It happens on labels too all the time. Like, a
Sure.
label will sign a band thinking that, no label signs a band because they think that the band isn't going to
No.
take off.
I mean, they're pumping a bunch of money in there, like hoping that
Exactly.
this gets them a return. So
Yeah, and then, it just, for whatever reason, nobody cares. And it's just like you try your best, and sometimes that's just the way it works. And, like I said, I've heard people call certain PRs scams because of that, but no, that's not the case. Most of the time, you'll find out the person they paid worked very hard to try to get them in front of people, but it was just not going, because when you're doing PR, you're paying the person for effort to try to get you in front of people. If it doesn't land, it doesn't land. But most people will do their best to get you whatever you want. Like, if someone comes to me and they tell me that they want to get interviewed by Rolling Stone, 99% of the time I'm going to tell them they're insane. If they push me to do it and they're a client of mine, I will pitch them, but I will tell the band flat out if I think they're stupid for trying to get that. But I mean, it's true, right? Because I've also
yeah.
seen, like, here's another good example. There's certain genres that don't work well with different sites and magazines. Like, we've had it where, for example, a metalcore band will want us to pitch Decibel for them, and Decibel is not known for doing metalcore. They're not. They're extreme metal. They don't generally do certain styles. But, and if they insist, I probably still am not going to do it, because I'm going to have to explain to them, like, look, this site does not take your style of music, and I am not going to
Yeah.
do that.
And you're going
Like,
to be mad that you don't get the results you want when it's just not going to happen.
yeah, and that's the thing. And then also I'll have bands. If a band comes up to me during the initial call or during the initial email, and they say, I want X, X, and X, and it's like really big, super big type things, and they're a brand new band, I will generally tell them to temper their expectations, because of the fact that, again, we can try and we've done it, but they're getting a newer band into, for example, Metal Sucks. It's like a 1 in a million chance. Maybe not a 1 in a million, but it's very, very low for a brand new band unless it's got some big name attached to it to land in Metal Sucks.
Right.
Same thing with Metal Hammer. Can it be done? Yes. How likely is it? Not very. Have we had it happen? Sure. Is it going to happen with you? Probably not. If you want us to try, and we think we're willing to try, but don't be paying us thinking that you're going to be landing, I don't know, Blabbermouth or something like that on your
Right.
debut, because it's probably not going to happen. And lots of people
Right.
honestly think that's what's going to happen if they pay for PR. So if I find that out, even if I like the band, I'll say no. If you're thinking that's what you're going to get, go to someone else, because I don't care if some other publicist told you they'd get you a feature in Kerrang for $50. That's not true. And I've had
So
people tell
stick
me
with them. It's like, what are they talking to you for if someone else told them?
exactly. I've literally had that. Well, this other publicist told us that we paid him $50, he'd land us a feature in Krang, and I said, unless that's the fucking writer himself or he's best buds with the editor in chief, there's no fucking way that's happening, and not at $50.
Right.
Yeah,
That's awesome. No, I mean that honesty, that also goes a long way too. It's like you're not trying to like just rip folks off and say, "Oh yeah, sure, sure, we'll get you whatever you want." Just once that $1,000 hits the bank account, we'll make miracles happen. Don't worry about it. No, I mean you
maybe.
tell them, "Look, this is probably not going to happen. If you want us to try, we will, but
Yeah,
yeah, don't expect, like you said, miracles to happen."
nope. But if they do, great.
Sweet. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you're making the pitch on their behalf, with your resources, your expertise, and your, what's the word I'm looking for? Like contacts, connections, things like that, and that's what you're paying for. So cool, man. And I guess the last question, unless I randomly think of another one. Um, so do you have any advice for bands, like, if they can't go to a PR agency, or something like that, they're starting out, they're trying to kind of get their foot in the door with the marketing and stuff like that. Is there any like just advice that you have for folks like just trying to start out, like with marketing their band?
Number one, okay, so this is coming from a guy who hosts his own music marketing podcast, but don't most of the music marketing gurus that you listen to are full of shit and aren't correct in many ways. A lot of the advice they give is good, but there's a lot of extremely bad advice out there. Um, One reason why I feel like my podcast is okay to give advice is because I actually work in PR. I don't just talk about it. My co-host, formerly Aaliyah, is had a background in marketing. Corey has a background in marketing. My current co-host Justin, he works in marketing. That's his day job. He works for like Fortune 500 companies doing marketing. He's
Wow.
been in a professional band that's on Metal Blade for I think like 8 years. Maybe it's less than that. I don't know, but he's on Metal Blade Records. So we actually do stuff currently. We're not someone that worked with The Cure back in 2002 as their fucking chauffeur or something like that, or we have credit doing, mixing on something in 1960 or whatever. That's what a lot of these guys do. I'm, I'm,
Right.
I'm, I'm not being facetious when I say this
No,
type
I
of shit.
know. I know. It's funny though.
Yeah, I know it's true. I worked with fucking Slayer, and then you find out, they did one, they mixed one song back in 1981 or something like that, and or they were Def Leppard's drummer for like 1 minute when Rick had his accident,
Right,
you know.
right. I guess
So
that's why it's funny, is because it's so believable. Like
I
I've
know,
seen it. I've seen
I
it.
know,
Like this is true. Like what you're
yeah,
saying.
exactly,
Like, and that's why it's funny. Like,
yeah. So, but anyways, like a lot of the advice that they give can be good, but a lot of it's not good. And usually there are best practices, but not everything is going to work for every band. So you want to be careful of that. I mean, your best bet is to just, figure out the basics and go from there. Like there are different basics for marketing. There's things like, what is your avatar? Like who is your ideal fan type of thing? That's a basic that anybody can learn and figure out with a little bit of research. It takes a while, but you can figure it out. You can also do basic things like figuring out where your fan base is by Googling other bands that are similar in style to you and figuring out who has reviewed them, what journalists have listened to them, where they've been covered, that type of thing. Another basic thing that you can learn is social media best practices, which is basically, don't start arguments with people online, actually talk to people, post every once in a while something that's not like a dick pic or something stupid like that, or, an off-color racist joke or something.
Right.
So, there's various different things like that, but if you don't have any money, just like do that. And you can also go to the library, you can get books on marketing, you can get books on PR. Just ask different people what are good books to read. And, but ultimately, like, these things are time consuming, and it is best if you just hire someone to do it if possible. But if you have the time to learn it, then by all means go ahead and do it. There's nothing stopping you. So my advice is, if you don't have much money, you can listen to our podcast, you can read books, but you got to be willing to put the time in and the effort in.
Cool. Yeah. Very valuable information. Makes sense for folks. Just put in the time and the effort and yeah, do what you can do. And, I'm going to put everything C squared music in the description below, links to everything, website, social media, link to the podcast. So if you want to get some insight into the marketing aspect from C squared music themselves, check out the podcast. All of that stuff's going to be in the description below, so you can go check it out. You can reach out to them if you're interested, whatever. Just be prepared to make the pitch to them, not the other way around. So tell them why they should, represent you. But yeah, check out all that good stuff. Follow them, listen to them, reach out to them, what have you. All there. And thank you so much, Curtis, for taking the time to chat with me about all this. It's been very fascinating getting some insight into the marketing aspect and just talking to you in general. So I really, really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Sweet. So yeah, thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. Again, everything C Squared Music in the description below. Check it all out. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time. Ranger, out.